Chapter 92 The Decisive 3v3 Battle. There were 3 people and 3 hurricanes of fighting intent. Bei Bei, Hua Yuao, and Wang Dong took large strides up to the tournament stage. They couldn't beget the fallen Xu Sanqi, nor the heavily injured Jia Xiao, or the fully drained TK2. Everything had been done for Shrek's glory. At the same time, this was glory that belonged to the Tang Sect. Other than Xu Sanqi and Zhang Nanan, who'd taken part in the first match, the remaining 5 people who were now belonged to both Shrek Academy and the Tang Sect. The latter was the sect that had been forgotten by countless people, yet had contributed much to the world of Soulmasters. It was the Tang Sect that had tried to desperately fight against a crazy tide, the Tang Sect that had been flourishing for a period of time. Bei Bei was the oldest among the 7, as well as the senior brother of the Tang Sect. As a result of this, he had to think about things much more than other people. The opportunity to come to this tournament was originally meant to be a form of tempering for the preparatory team to become the main team in the future. However, they were able to fully stimulate their potential after being forced into the heart of the struggle. Bei Bei deeply believed that everyone present would receive unimaginable benefits as long as they were able to clench their teeth and persist. Ordinary learning and cultivation would be completely unable to stimulate their minds and potential in the way that this had. Furthermore, he regarded the title of Shrek's 7 monsters as a very important thing. How could he just receive it without doing anything? The true core of the first generation was Tang San, and the 7 monsters from that generation had all become members of the Tang Sect. Since this match had an extraordinary amount of significance to Shrek Academy, how could it not be the same for the Tang Sect? We'll definitely succeed. This was the only thought that was in Bei Bei's mind right now. The scene of him meeting Tanya for the first time had inexplicably appeared in his mind. The Tanya at that time looked so helpless, and her eyes looked so hazy. However, Bei Bei had also seen an unforgettably firm and stubborn look in her eyes. The current Tanya was normally a merry person, but only Bei Bei knew how heavy the burdens within the depths of her heart were. Only Bei Bei knew that the hard work that Tanya normally put in was no less than what Hua Yuao did. The limitations of her natural talents were the reason why she was unable to compete with the other students who had extraordinary talents. Tanya had never complained about anything, but in reality, the arrogance that came from her belonging to the Tang Sect had never decreased. Bei Bei had never told this to Tanya, but although he was only 15 years old, he reckoned that he was a man who could hold up the heavens for her. Since he had chosen Tanya, he would do everything he could for the re-emergence of the Tang Sect. Moreover, there were even deeper reasons for this. The dedication he gave to the Tang Sect wasn't just for Tanya alone. 4 of just the Academy's 7 official team members had already stepped out, and the remaining members were naturally Yu Wuqing and the other 2 members he led. This was also the first time that Yu Wuqing had stepped onto the tournament stage. Yu Wuqing wasn't especially tall, but he was extremely well-shaped. His well-fitting set of warrior robes showed that his body wasn't too different from that of an ordinary person, nor was he especially handsome. His only defining feature was his face, which had never revealed any emotions. Even his eyes were indifferent, making it seem as though everything that had just occurred hadn't affected him at all. Nobody could be born with a disposition like this. The amount of information that Wang Yan had on Yu Wuqing was sparse to the point where it could be called pitiful. After all, Just Key Academy had never posed anything resembling a threat to Shrek Academy's original official team. A man and a woman stood beside Yu Wuqing. The man had a somewhat ugly face, a drooping nose, a pair of small eyes, thick lips, and a below-average height. Even his hair was somewhat thinly spread. The fact that he was able to participate in this tournament meant that he was 20 at most, but he looked much older than his actual age. His name was Shangan Kan, and he was an auxiliary control type tool soul master. Among the students of Just Key Academy who had participated in the first round of the elimination tournament, he was the one who had left the deepest impression on Wang Yan. His capabilities in the field of auxiliary control could be seen from this fact. The female student standing beside Yu Wuqing was much prettier. Her long, fire-red hair was draped over her shoulders, and her charming features could even be considered pleasant. Although she wasn't an absolute beauty like Zhang Nanan, she was still filled with the aura of youth. Her body was extremely well developed, giving a feeling of desire to all onlookers. She was called Yana, and she was an assault-type battle soulmaster who specialized in long-range attacks. She was somewhat similar to the wielder of the purple flower bow, Tang Chalet, in terms of abilities, but she didn't have the explosive power that the latter had. However, she was much better than him in a drawn-out fight. Shangan Ken and Yana were both 4-ring soul ancestors, but their cultivations had reached rank 46. On the other hand, Yu Wuqing was a rank 58 assault-type soul king. Although they hadn't sent out the strongest possible lineup of 3 soul kings, Yu Wuqing was still able to leave this group for the last match. In terms of willpower and the conviction to win, they were not inferior to Shrek Academy. This was a chance for Just the Academy to make history. If they were able to become the first academy to defeat Shrek Academy, which had been undefeated for several thousand years, the glory they would gain would be able to let the 7 members of Just the Academy be respected for their entire lives. Both parties walked over to the center of the tournament stage, then looked each other in the eye. Since both team leaders knew who their counterparts were, Bei Bei didn't speak up. On the other hand, the first person to speak up was actually Yu Wuqing. Shrek is still Shrek. Although I don't know why Shrek Academy would send you guys to participate in this tournament. You have used your strength to win our respect. Even if you lose, you will not lose any face for Shrek Academy. I am called Yu Wuqing, and I am the team leader of Just Key Academy. I'm called Bei Bei. Bei Bei said indifferently. As for victory or defeat, we'll just have to see after the match. Yu Wuqing nodded his head lightly. It's precisely because of the respect we have for you that we will be going all out. You have the glory that belongs to Shrek Academy, and we similarly have the glory that belongs to Just Key Academy. We will definitely win this match. The corner of Bei Bei's mouth twitched. You speak a lot of nonsense. Yu Wuqing's cold eyes flickered for a bit. He extended his right thumb, then slowly turned it downwards. However, Bei Bei started to laugh. It's always people like you who act like everyone owes you money so that other people don't actually know that you're trying to pull one out. I'll quickly send you off the stage to save you the trouble of being embarrassed. It's not embarrassing to have constipation, really. Xu Sanqi was a perverted person, but he was far from Bei Bei's level at trash talking, let alone a person like Yu Wuqing, who bitterly cultivated all day long. Yu Wuqing's calm face started to flush red, and the facial muscles of his 2 teammates twitched as they tried to not laugh. Clearly, they didn't like Yu Wuqing's eternally expressionless face either. The referee interrupted the 2 parties who were quibbling with each other before the match. Get back. Prepare for the match. Yu Wuqing pointed his finger at Bei Bei, then moved backwards. Bei Bei muttered to himself, I just hate people who point fingers at me the most. I'll definitely break it later. Both parties retreated, quickly reaching the ends of the newly repaired tournament stage. The fighting intent of all 6 competing students was burning like a fierce blaze, and the smell of gunpowder had already filled the battlefield before the match had even started. This was a match that neither party could afford to lose. Wang Yan, who was originally planning to forfeit the match, was currently clenching his fists. He prayed in his heart unceasingly. Kids, you've already gotten to this point. You're already the best. However, you must win this match. You are the pride of Shrek. A soul king and 2 soul ancestors were facing a team of a soul ancestor, a soul elder, and a soul grandmaster. There was a large disparity between both parties, but Shrek's 7 monsters hadn't been at a disadvantage during their previous matches with similar situations. Who would dare to say that they wouldn't be able to create a miracle during this match? Right, they needed a miracle to have a chance of winning. However, the monsters of Shrek Academy were always good at creating miracles. The referee gave it Shrek Academy's trio a deep look, then took a deep breath and shouted, "Match, start." The tens of thousands of people in Douluo Plaza were all focused on this single thing. The audience had even forgotten how to blink, so scared were they that they would miss a single thing. This match was simply too exciting. They had already forgotten the glory of Shrek Academy. Right now, only the staunch and unyielding Shrek existed in their minds. Over on the city walls, even the Emperor couldn't help but press his hands into his chair as he watched intently. Would a miracle truly occur? According to the investigations he had conducted, Shrek Academy stood no chance of winning this match. However, they had already used their actions to prove that their soul ancestors wouldn't be afraid of any soul kings, to the extent that even a 2-ring soul grandmaster had dared to forcefully clash with a soul king. Just how valiant was this? Following the declaration of the start of the match, both parties released their respective martial souls. Accompanied by a wave of lightning, dragon scales began to cover half of Bei Bei's body as he released his tyrannical blue lightning dragon. Huo Yuao and Wang Dong then released their martial souls while holding hands in a very natural manner. However, the blood red soul rings didn't appear as per the audience's anticipations. What appeared was actually white or white that represented a 10-year soul ring. Currently, there were only 2 simple white soul rings around Huo Yuao and Wang Dong's bodies. This can't be possible, right? The sudden and enormous contrast between the extremely powerful 100,000-year soul rings and the extremely weak 10-year soul rings threw Yu Wuqing's trio into a daze for a moment. The audience had also flown into an uproar. Even if the 2 rings Xiaoxiao had appeared in the previous match, a student from Shrek Academy would never only have 2 white soul rings. Huo Yuao and Wang Dong simply didn't take any of that into consideration. At this moment, their hearts were interlinked, their soul powers combined. Borrowing the force of Huo Yuao's tug, Wang Dong was now behind him. He was already prepared to act as a background figure in this match. Huo Yuao and Wang Dong simply did not think about such matters. At this very moment, their hearts were linked, and their soul powers combined. Wang Dong ducked as he pulled Huo Yuao behind him. He was already completely prepared to play the role of the supporting cast in this battle. Regardless of whether it was him or Huo Yuao, they wouldn't be able to take on a powerful opponent by themselves. However, the fact that they were companions with a 100% compatibility rate couldn't be forgotten. The 2 of them could rival even a soul ancestor if they working together. Neither him nor Huo Yuao would be able to contend against the enemy before them alone. However, one must never forget that they were companions that possessed a 100% martial soul fusion rate. Their combined might was already enough to match a soul ancestor. Wang Dong stuck to Huo Yuao's back in a very natural manner. As he held onto the ladder's waist, he released his radiant butterfly goddess. From the front, Wang Dong looked as if he had already disappeared. It was as if Huo Yuao had grown a pair of dazzling wings, whose bluish golden light radiated throughout the entire arena. Wang Dong's radiant butterfly goddess wasn't the strongest martial soul that had appeared in the tournament, but up till now, there was definitely no other one that could be compared to it in terms of beauty. As the Hadong power circulated through his body, Huo Yuao took a step forward and reached Bei Bei. After fusing with Wang Dong, he wanted to rely on their combined strength to help his senior brother fight. Senior brother, we'll fight alongside you. Huo Yuao's voice was clearly somewhat low. At this moment, a golden light flickered through his eyes, and a few shades of jade green were hidden within them. Okay. Bei Bei shouted, taking the initiative to charge towards his opponents. Wang Dong unfurled his wings, allowing Huo Yuao to follow his senior brother by flying in a manner that seemed as though he was gliding over the floor. Huo Yuao's spiritual detection had already enveloped the entire stage. With Yu Wuqing leading the team, the 3 students from Just the Academy released their martial souls. Their martial souls could be said to be somewhat unique, and one had no choice but to admit that Just the Academy, which relied on the cultivation of martial souls while rejecting the use of soul tools, was somewhat unique when selecting and nurturing students. Shangin shut his eyes, causing a faint layer of mist to diffuse from his body. This mist wasn't white, but faint blue. This faint blue mist coiled about and rose into the air, making his body faintly discernible and filling his person with an aura of mystery. Following a series of crisp bell rings, an ancient bell appeared in his right hand. This bell was very large, and its wooden handle alone was already more than a foot long. The front section of the bell was dark blue, and there were 3 magical blue balls within it. The collision between these balls and the bell itself was what caused the ringing sounds. The reason why it was called magical was because these 3 balls were actually flickering with light as they rocked about within the bell. They resembled 3 small eyes that continuously opened and closed. One of the balls was cold, the other was hot, and the last was demonic. It was truly an extremely peculiar martial soul. 2 yellow and 2 purple soul rings started to undulate about his body. As he took a few steps back, Shangin squinted his eyes, gazing at Huo Yuao's body. Over at the other side, the girl known as Yana had a martial soul that related to fire. As her name implied, her current appearance was even more peculiar. At this moment, she was floating in the air, held up by a half-meter wide fireball. Her hands were outstretched from her body, and her arms were slightly bent. She held a palm-sized fireball in each of her hands. There was no doubt about it, her martial soul was a fireball. It wasn't an elemental martial soul like the one Ling Luoken possessed, but it was a material elemental martial soul that was slightly inferior to hers. In contrast to them, Yu Wuqing's martial soul wasn't too peculiar. A long and narrow gold leaf had quietly floated in front of him, and his soul rings also surrounded him. He then raised his right hand, using his index and middle fingers to hold this leaf. This was Yu Wuqing's martial soul, the golden leaf. However, he was an assault-type soul master. Yana was the first person on the battlefield to make a move. As she pressed her hands together, she shouted, "Go!" Immediately, the 2 fireballs in her palms fused together. This fusion didn't look too important, but a foot-wide fireball suddenly flew towards Bei Bei. Following that, Yana's first soul ring lit up. While Yana made her move, Shangin wasn't slacking about either. He gently shook his soul-sucking bell, causing a series of jingles to ring out. Waves of twitchiness flooded Bei Bei, Huo Yuao, and Wang Dong's minds, and they became absent-minded for an instant. Spiritual interference. The corner of Huo Yuao's mouth twitched for a moment. Although he didn't know the correct name of his opponent's soul skill, he could guarantee that this was something akin to his spiritual interference. Pipe down a little. Huo Yuao shouted coldly as he counterattacked without any traces of politeness at all. A purplish golden light instantly shot out from his eyes, targeting Shangin soul-sucking bell. If Huo Yuao and Wang Dong were truly 2 ring soul grandmasters, the former's strength in spiritual type skills wouldn't be too great. Moreover, whatever skill he could release would be weakened by his first white soul ring. This was what Shangin thought. He was an auxiliary control type soul master, making him somewhat similar to Xiaoxiao. He was called an auxiliary type soul master, but he didn't strengthen his teammates. He weakened his opponents. For example, his first soul skill would affect the minds of all opponents within a certain range, and cancel the lock-on effects of any other soul skills. Shangin could be considered to be quite skillful in its use. However, he would never have thought that he would encounter a pure spiritual type soul master like Huo Yuao. Shangin still needed to rely on his soul-sucking bell to unleash his soul skills, but Huo Yuao's spiritual type abilities were purely reliant on the use of his eyes. A body soul was naturally much stronger than his tool soul. With Huo Yuao's spiritual sharing, losing lock-on effects simply wouldn't bother any of his teammates. Furthermore, wouldn't Huo Yuao still be able to hit his opponent using his spiritual shock? Because of that, Shangin was somewhat unprepared when facing Huo Yuao's spiritual shock. One shouldn't assume that Huo Yuao was weak just because of his 2 soul rings. Even a Soul King ranked expert like Shen Si had to suffer a loss from his spiritual shock. With Wang Dong's help and the amplification provided by the Hadong power, Huo Yuao's soul power was sufficient to step into the threshold of 4 ringed soul ancestors. Although he had fewer soul rings, all of them were equivalent to 1,000-year soul rings in terms of power, and his spiritual shock was further strengthened by his purple demon eyes. After being strengthened, his soul skill was already sufficiently powerful to take on anyone below the Soul Emperor rank. Only if his opponent was prepared, or his spiritual power was not powerful enough, would he suffer a large backlash. A purplish golden light instantly shot out, and Shangin felt an irresistible, sharp spiritual power rush into his mind. He felt like his head had been fiercely smashed by a metal hammer, and 2 jets of fresh blood instantly shot out from his nose. He stumbled and nearly fell down, causing his first soul skill to immediately end. What a powerful spiritual type attack skill. Astonished, Shangin violently shook the soul-sucking bell in his hand. An ear-piercing jingle brought about a powerful sound wave, causing Huo Yuao's trio to feel as though their heads were exploding. This was especially true for Huo Yuao, who had just suffered a backlash after using his spiritual shock. His footsteps slowed down a bit, and he let out a muffled groan. This was the soul-sucking bell's second soul skill, Soul Death. At this exact moment, Yana's fireball finally reached Bei Bei. Bei Bei raised his right hand, sending a claw-shaped bolt of purplish blue lightning forward. This bolt of lightning collided with the fireball in midair, causing a violent boom to ring out. Bei Bei wasn't stopped at all, but his thunderous dragon claw had been drained by the fireball. Bei Bei clearly had a better martial soul, but he was slightly inferior to Yana in terms of soul power. When both parties used their first soul skills, they ended up being equal. Yana let out a relaxed sigh after seeing the results of their clash. Since their opponent was an assault-type soul master who wasn't even her equal in cultivation, how could they have any chance of defeating her side? Yu Wuqing made a move as well. His style of attacking was something that no one present would have expected. He flung out the leaf he held between his fingers, his second soul ring lighting up as he did so. However, the very dazzling golden leaf didn't seem to possess any power as it was flung out. More mysteriously, it seemed as though Yu Wuqing had made a mistake. The leaf's landing point was still 2 to 3 meters away from Bei Bei and Huo Yuao, creating a seemingly powerless parabola. Yu Wuqing had chosen an extremely good time to attack. This was just as Shangin had released his soul death. Affected by Shangin soul death, Huo Yuao's spiritual detection sharing turned sluggish for a brief moment. At that moment, the golden leaf landed on the ground. Ding! The golden Ding, the golden leaf landed, causing a crisp peal to ring out. Right after that, it unexpectedly ricocheted. Furthermore, its originally yellow gold surface suddenly turned pure gold as it tripled in speed and shot towards Bei Bei. However, the golden leaf didn't land on Bei Bei. A small throwing knife seemed to coincidentally, yet extremely accurately, strike the golden leaf mid-flight. The two items collided, and the golden leaf was slowed down momentarily. After that, the throwing knife, which was of relatively decent quality, unexpectedly melted. Then, a violent boom rang out, turning into a pure gold flare of light that swirled everywhere. The person who thrown the throwing knife was Huo Yuao. Although his spiritual sharing had been affected temporarily, his own spiritual detection still worked. As the user of the skill, his spiritual power was the strongest of the 6 people participating in this match. Because of that, he had still grasped the trajectory of the golden leaf. At the critical moment, Huo Yuao had used the Tang Sect's technique of controlling hidden weapons to send a throwing knife to waste the power of the golden leaf. He had already felt that something was off the instant the golden leaf left Yi Wuqing's hands, because he clearly sensed that the golden leaf contained an enormous, yet unstable soul power. This soul power immediately circulated in a peculiar fashion the instant it was thrown out. As a result, it would be strange if this thing was just that simple. After all, this was something released by an expert who was near the Soul Emperor rank of cultivation. Although Bei Bei's reactions were a bit slow, he still had the throwing knife to help him block the attack. Combined with Huo Yuao's warning, he still had enough time to change the direction he was moving in and keep from being burned by that light flare. But even though this was the case, he still felt as though a raging storm of metal was trying to swallow him up. Just what was this soul skill? Bei Bei was stunned. This Yi Wuqing seemed to have a very special martial soul, even for a student of Shrek Academy like him. This was the first time he'd seen a martial soul like this. Yi Wuqing was slightly stunned at seeing his golden leaf get intercepted. However, the second leaf quickly appeared in his hands. With a flash of golden light, it flew out as his first soul skill again. Furthermore, the golden leaf had an extremely swaying trajectory this time. He had flung it straight into the air. At this moment, the strength of Huo Yuao's spiritual detection manifested itself. Huo Yuao and Bei Bei simply didn't need to care about the golden leaf as they continued forward. Bei Bei suddenly accelerated, closing the distance between the two parties to 30 meters. On the other hand, Huo Yuao released a timely spiritual interference. Since Clan's soul-sucking bell could interfere with them, they could naturally do the same to their opponents as well. Yi Wuqing's trio was slightly stunned by Huo Yuao's spiritual interference. Yana even thought that Clan had mistakenly aimed his soul-sucking bell towards them, and subconsciously looked towards him. The golden leaf suddenly fell towards Bei Bei, but a throwing knife appeared in a timely manner to block its path. Yi Wuqing's golden leaf was certainly very powerful, but what good would it do if it was unable to strike its target? If the first time was a coincidence, the second time clearly couldn't be explained as something as simple as a coincidence. Just the Academy's trio consisted of one auxiliary soul master and 2 long-ranged ones, and so, distance was naturally a relatively important resource for Bei Bei, Huo Yuao, and Wang Dong. Huo Yuao also sped up, but he didn't do this by relying on the burst of energy provided by his soul power. Instead, the soul thrusters on his back and feet suddenly lit up. This was the first time he was using a soul tool in this tournament. He wore speed-varying soul thrusters below his feet, and a class 2 soul thruster on his back, allowing him to suddenly accelerate. Instantly, he crossed the 30-meter distance between the two parties. With Wang Dong's soul power supporting him, he would be able to control even a class 3 soul tool, let alone a class 2 one. The only thing worth pointing out was that, when he activated the thrusters on his back, Wang Dong started holding onto his shoulders instead of his waist. This allowed him to fly horizontally through the air while keeping parallel with the ground. This prevented him from suffering any knockback effects from the soul thrusters, while allowing him to not affect Huo Yuao's advance. Just the Academy was extremely cautious towards Huo Yuao. After all, he had performed astonishingly well during the previous matches, and a mysterious person was the most terrifying thing in the world. Up till now, nobody had clearly guessed what Huo Yuao's actual strength was. Huo Yuao's target was Clan, and at this moment, he was just about to reach him. The sound coming from Clan's soul-sucking bell suddenly became sharp as he activated his third soul skill. That piercing call of the bell made it seem as though there were countless needles that were irritating one's eardrums. It wasn't just unpleasant to hear, but it even gave off an indescribable sense of jitteriness. Soul piercing. This was Clan's third soul skill. If one's cultivation was far weaker than his, one would feel extremely irritated due to this soul skill. There was even a chance that one would directly fall into a coma. Furthermore, this soul skill covered an extremely large area. The charging Bei Bei was directly affected, and Wang Dong likewise. Only Huo Yuao acted as if he hadn't heard anything at all. Before he reached Clan, a somewhat twisted ray of white light had already shot towards the latter like lightning. Yi Wuqing and Yana would naturally not just stand idly by while Clan was being attacked. The aura around Yana suddenly changed, and the large fireball she was standing on shot out. The large fireball split into 5 smaller ones in midair, and 2 of them shot towards Huo Yuao, while the other 3 blocked Bei Bei. Not only that, but she put her palms together in front of her chest, and her third soul ring lit up, causing an enormous purple fireball to congeal in front of her. Instantly, the air within the tournament stage started to heat up as a result of this purple flame. A golden leaf accurately blocked Huo Yuao's light ray, just like how he had done the same using his throwing knives earlier. Yi Wuqing had made a move. He naturally would not allow his auxiliary type soul master to be struck just like that. However, a mysterious scene occurred the instant that golden leaf sliced through the soul light's beam of light. The golden leaf passed straight through it, as though it had not encountered any resistance at all. Yi Wuqing was originally planning to use his golden leaf to block Huo Yuao's attack, causing it to explode and generate an explosive force from the metallic storm it would create. He was confident in stopping Huo Yuao's next move before using an even stronger soul skill on him and Bei Bei. However, he had made a mistake. Once the seemingly extremely powerful golden leaf touched the ray of light, it unexpectedly passed straight through it, as though it had collided with nothing at all. At this moment, it was flying straight towards Clan. Clan was very familiar with the strength of Yi Wuqing's golden leaf. After letting out a cry, he couldn't be bothered with the continued activation of his soul-sucking bell as he fiercely leapt to the side like a fish. On the other hand, that ray of light suddenly curved in midair, then accurately struck Yi Wuqing. Yi Wuqing only felt his entire body dynamics. He fell into a state of paralysis. Right, Huo Yuao had used the soul paralysis ray he had bought at the soul tool option. The soul paralysis ray naturally wouldn't curve around in midair, and it would definitely have caused Yi Wuqing's golden leaf to explode if it had truly collided with it. However, why did the golden leaf just brush past it? Furthermore, why did it force Clan into such a miserable state? This was the effect of Huo Yuao simultaneously using his 2 powerful soul skills. He had done this by using his spiritual detection to accurately determine the movements of his opponents, and his imitation to create a deviation in what had actually happened and what his opponent saw. Huo Yuao clearly knew of the difficulties involved in this match. Due to this pressure, his potential was fully unleashed, not just in strength, but also in his wisdom. The most ingenious part of his attack was right here. His imitation allowed him to make minute transformations to the things around him, and the more minute these transformations were, the harder it would be to tell that they were fake. The entire process of charging towards Clan was real. The only thing that was fake was the soul paralysis ray. The reason why it had curved was because it had left the range of his imitation. No matter how strong Yi Wuqing was, he would definitely be unable to dodge a strange move like this. Yi Wuqing had been paralyzed, while Clan had been forced into retreating in a sorry state. At this moment, Bei Bei, Huo Yuao, and Wang Dong only had to face a single person, Yana. She had launched 5 large fireballs, but Bei Bei had no plans of allowing the 2 fireballs directed toward Huo Yuao from striking their target. Countless lightning snakes shot out simultaneously, then transformed into countless arrows of lightning that explosively blasted everything. This was Bei Bei's second soul skill, Vigorous Thunderbolt. The tyrannical net of lightning collided with the 5 fireballs, filling the sky with sparks. The terrifying impact coming from that collision was so great that even the paralyzed Yi Wuqing was forced to stagger a few steps backwards. At this moment, the most powerful use of Wang Dong's wings was revealed. As he flapped his wings, Huo Yuao changed directions, allowing him to not only dodge the after effects of the golden leaf's explosion, but also allowing him to soar into the air. He flew past Bei Bei's head, bringing Huo Yuao straight towards Yana. Right. From the very start, Hua Yuao and Bei Bei's target wasn't Yu Wuqing or Shang Kan. As an auxiliary type soul master, although Shang Kan wasn't weak, he couldn't provide too much assistance to his teammates due to Hua Yuao's spirit eyes. Moreover, Yu Wuqing was strong to the point where even if Hua Yuao's trio were to take him on 1v3, they might not be able to defeat him directly. Because of that, their target from the very start was Yana. Only, they had concealed all of this in an extremely ingenious manner during their previous collision. At this moment, they suddenly exploded out. Yana's only strength was the enormous purple fireball that she had formed in front of her. The high temperatures coming from it scorched the air, causing ripple-like distortions to appear in the air surrounding her body. At the same time, she was completely deserving of being a student chosen for just the Academy's official team. Even when facing a disadvantageous situation like this, she didn't seem flustered at all. She quickly retreated, preventing the distance between her and Yu Wuqing from increasing as she did so. At the same time, she didn't use the purple fireball created from her 1,000-year soul skill. Instead, she kept it in front of her, ready to block attacks from her opponents at any time. There was no doubt that she was making the right choice. The only thing she had to do right now was persevere and not fall under the all-out attacks of the three opponents in front of her until Yu Wuqing recovered from his paralyzed state. However, she quickly discovered that she had still made a miscalculation. The originally scorching temperatures on the tournament stage suddenly dropped, as though a cold stream had poured into it. The size of purple fireball in front of Yana's body was instantly reduced by a third, and she was simply unable to release the power of its heat. Hua Yuao's eyes had become completely jade green. Although he still had 2 soul rings in front of him due to his imitation, he had actually switched his martial soul to the Ice Jade Empress Scorpion. This was a martial soul that possessed ultimate ice, a martial soul that could cause Shrek Academy's Sea Gods Pavilion to hold a meeting. Even the great powers within Shrek Academy were overjoyed beyond belief when discovering the existence of Hua Yuao's ultimate ice. From that, the power of his Ice Jade Empress Scorpion could be seen. His soul power wasn't up to par, but his martial soul and soul rings were unrivaled existences. Hua Yuao's gaze turned serious, and the soul thruster on his back flickered with light as he shot towards Yana like a bolt of lightning. Unexpectedly, he used his hands to directly swat at Yana's purple fireball. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.